Добрый день, дорогие друзья! С нами сегодня концертный звукорежиссер новозеландской исполнительницы Lorde Филип Джей Харви, который сегодня расскажет нам, как он использует в своей работе системы гиперреалистического звука Elisa на основе акустических систем L-Acoustic с микшерной консолью Solid State Logic L500, которые использовались в мировом турне Melodrama в этом году.
Okay. The first question is about using the Elisa system. So how you making a setup, how the signal is going through the console to the Elisa processing. Is it MADI? Do you use any converters? What protocol? Did you face any problems with that? And do you use any automation or tracking systems?
We take the microphone signals into the super analog preamps, SSL preamps, and then into the digital desk, into the SSL L500. And those were direct channel outs into the MADI, via MADI into the Elisa processor. It was very stable, we didn't have any problems. It was 90, has the ability to use 96 inputs. We were taking SMPTE timecode into the console. The console was not slave to it or the Elisa, but we recorded it into Pro Tools. Automation just via just automation data, and then we play back that automation data with the OSC converter, in which we control the elements of the Elisa panning system. That, like, there was one song, Yellow Flicker Beat, that's got like an air raid type siren that would start from the back and pan all the way across and come across the front again. And we just had to set that up with iMotion controller with Carlos Mosquera, the applications engineer for Elisa from L-Acoustics. Set up a motion controller so he could do it with his hands. That would record the data, then we went back to edit it to make it a little bit cleaner.
How long does take the setting up the system, and how much people are involved into work with system?
So we had 5 technicians on the Lorde tour with setup. I think we were the audio truck usually loaded in between about 9:30, between 9 and 9:30, and once we got all the points, we were up by noon. So say 3.5 hours for setup, and starting to tune at after 3.5 hours. And then we had 5 technicians from Firehouse Productions. So that includes myself, our audio crew chief, which is Mike Gazdaziak, and 3 techs to hang the system.
Good. How long does the calibration of system on the venue take?
It's interestingly enough, it's a much quicker. It felt like it was much quicker than the conventional tuning time. Once we have settings in the ballpark. Probably the hardest thing was the low end and sub content, getting that correctly. But it was quite easy moving from venue to venue, because especially with arenas, they're more or less the same. You have different ceiling heights, which was the biggest challenge. We had 16 K1 subs in the air, and sometimes you could two hangs of 8 in an end fire position over the center K2 array of the Elisa, and because it was above the center K2, you would run into problems with ceiling height. So sometimes we could only have 14 or 10, depending on the venue. But mostly it translated very easily and evenly between different venues of the arena size.
Great. And how much takes rehearsal time? I mean, preparation of show from the beginning till it will be implemented on the venue.
We had 10 days of band rehearsal that that we used the clang system to prepare for, and that was more to get used to the software and experiment with things and try different things. And then I had 4 days at L-Acoustics in their Elisa studio, mixing on it, which was amazing, taking the elements from the clang system and putting it through the Siva speakers, which they're pretty good sounding speakers, those Siva, and you know, found that you could really work with the Sivas, because of course they're beautiful. You could really work with the width and the depth of the Elisa system, and then we had 3 days of production rehearsal in Chicago at an arena before our first show. So yeah, it's just over 2 weeks, so like 16 days.
Got it. What's the real size of Elisa zone in large venues when audience can feel here the real immersive sound?
That's basically the entire floor of in front of the sound system. The entire arena floor could enjoy the immersive sensation. Where you know, in a conventional system, you've got a left and right PA, and there's a thin strip down the middle of the venue, where if you're in that zone, you hear you can hear the left and right evenly and understand the perspective and movement of the mix elements. But if you're, you know, 2 steps off too far to the right or the left, then one speaker overshadows and kind of takes over. So where you don't get that immersive or stereoscopic feeling. So by having 5 speakers in the frontal zone, you basically anywhere on the floor, and just maybe first or second row into the first rows, you could feel it as well, and just understand and get the sensation that you were really immersed in it, and that elements were moving, or you could feel their perspective and hear the perspective. What was quite interesting is that we found with the monofills, so you know, the Elisa system we used were 9 hangs, so 3 K2 in the middle, like center K2, K2 on either side, and then Kara, 2 Kara hangs, which are normally where a left and right system would be. On the outside of that, there are 2 more Kara hangs, which were the extension zones. So you had the 5 in the middle as the frontal zone, 2 on either side as the extension zones, which we used mostly for reverbs and delays. We found out that if you, with the monofills, to cover people too close to the stage to really feel the immersive effect, we would have to have 2 monofills so they could hear the concert, fill it out. And we discovered that if we on that mono mix, if we left the reverbs and the delays out, then the extension scenes would fill in all this information. So it's really interesting, because you got the mix perfectly, and then you would get this complete color of effects and delays and things, which you know, originally you have a mono mix, you want to put all the elements into it, including effects, but this really opened up an immersive sensation, even listening to the mono mix.
Got it. And how it feels now to move back to stereo? Do you have to change a lot of your mix?
Yes, yeah, definitely some elements that you could really bring out and really have loud and vivid. So the Elisa provided so much room to fill up, and initially I was kind of worried about it, because, you know, like if you do a 5.1 mix or even a classic stereo mix from you know, David Bowie came out with the 5.1 recordings or mixes rather of his records. and you take these elements that are already in a stereo field, and you have to completely fill that scape and keep it more so immersive. And I thought I thought it would be difficult, but it's much easier to do because you didn't have to carve out any frequencies in the middle. You know, you could pretty much leave everything really open and dynamic. Less compression was used because you had more space to work with. So going from, you know, ultra wide and immersive back to the constraints of 2 speakers instead of 9. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. It's difficult, no, but you know, I felt quite spoiled by the Lisa system for sure.
Got it. And going to SSL questions, why do you choose exactly SSL console?
I mean, to me, there is no better sounding desk. The fidelity, the clarity, SSL with the super analog preamps, and even the having the built-in split where you can take the super analog preamps and the active split and give those to the monitor engineer. Hands down, best sounding console out there, and it's to me the most analog sounding. The preamps are amazing. SSL, they've been in the game for a really long time. Most of your favorite records have been mixed and recorded on SSLs, and you know, they haven't stopped there. They've been in the broadcast game for a long time as well. So when you know, SSL, when they came out with a live desk, they had all this experience and behind them, and you know, like when DigiDesign and Digico, you know, fine desks as well, but they were created to fill the live mixing console market, and SSL has kind of done it all, and they're latecomers to the live, you know, live industry, but I definitely think they're the leader.
And how is process organized on SSL? Do you use a lot of scenes, automation between them? Timecode, you said you're using some kind of...
Right, yeah, timecode we just took in to feed our lighting designer, and then our lighting designer's console. The SSL desk was not slave to timecode at all. I definitely use scenes and snapshots to configure dynamics, EQs, mutes, and fader positions. Otherwise, yeah, no other automation.
Got it. Do you use any other external plugins except that SSL has on board?
We had a Waves sound grids server with the sound grids. Basically, MADI out of the SSL desk into MGBs, Waves MGBs, and used sound grids server. Those plugins were predominantly IR reverbs, the convolution reverb plugin, where you could have these beautiful, you know, impulse response reverbs, algorithms of like Sydney Opera House and other studios that I used for Lorde's vocals, and the F6 dynamic EQ was another one I used a lot, and Aphex Aural Enhancer, and the vocal writer. A vocal writer for Lorde was just, you know, having a 3 decibel range and having it take care of.
Это был Филип Джей Харви, который рассказал нам сегодня очень много интересной информации о том, как он использует в своем мировом турне оборудование L-Acoustic и SSL. Спасибо большое.
Спасибо.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure's mine.
Yeah. До свидания.